Welcome back to Project Independence and You Community Talk Radio on 88.1 FM and WCWP.org. We are now in our Talk of the Town segment, of course, with Kristina Lou and Otto, and just going to talk about all things going on in the town. But as usual, we do have to talk a little bit about the guest that we just had, Barry Klitzberg, who is Assistant Program Coordinator, Nassau County High Cap. You know what I love about all of our guests? They're all working, but retired. So, it's like, here is someone who is so busy, yet retired. And this is his, I guess, rewirement job, his rewirement gig, Otto.
Right.
It
But
sounds like the right thing. I
it's
think it's
just
great.
so much. It's so overwhelming,
Yes.
all this Medicare stuff. But, having had him on the show so many times, and of course, being in the business and, watching my mom and my uncle and some older relatives go through things, and having had to call Barry on their behalf for different things, I'm a little more comfortable with it. But like, I can get it if we have, once you kind of sign up for the first time and you think you've done it, like, but yet then a few months later, open enrollment hits and you've got to figure out what the options are there, and are you carrying over a supplemental, and it's so much. But
It's
thank
overwhelming. And I
Barry.
say every year I sit there and Barry, just spits out. So, I mean, it's incredible that he could just like go over all these different parts. And I think that that's so important. I really encourage people, and I know that a lot of our residents do, make use of Barry and all the volunteers and the other people on staff there in the high cap program, because I mean, it is overwhelming and it's such an individual kind of process to go through, because it's not a blanket statement. It really depends on so many factors of things that the individual
Uh,
person is going through. So
That's what's very
it's
good, frankly. I mean, I've been now looking at it 22 years on Medicare, right? Uh, and I still need a refresher every year in terms of
yeah.
what we're talking about. Because
Mhm.
you don't sit there all year saying, "Oh, A is this and B is that and C is
Right.
this and D
Right?
is that." All right, you,
Yeah.
it comes in, and somewhere around June or July, it's gone, and then you got to start all over
I like
again.
that Otto had a month for when it leaves the brain.
I mean, it's and it does change. And Barry is a top-notch professional in doing what he does. He cares. He's not selling anything. He's just giving
Mhm.
information. And
Yeah.
Lord knows you need it with this stuff. It's very complex. If you look at this thing, 36 advantage plans.
36.
Yeah, and you get promotional. It's marketing, all right. There's marketing all over the place about advantage plans. Some of them are a little deceptive. They make it sound like they're Medicare. It's from Medicare. Yeah, right. Okay. No, you're not really. You got to be careful. You really do.
Yeah.
And it doesn't hurt to talk to somebody like Barry who
Right.
knows the ins and outs of the whole thing.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
it's complicated. But if you have someone like Barry, and the website too is very good. And of course, Christine, I think we have to talk a little bit more about the smart van, just because
Yeah, so that's what I was
um
actually going to go over. So the Smart Van, it's Tuesday, November 14th from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. at Clinton G. Martin Park. You don't need to make an appointment for the van. And it's in partnership with Family and Children's Association, which is what Barry's High Cap program is a part of. But this whole van, and I want people to be aware also, we also have a room rented out that day too. Because in scheduling this, they said that sometimes a senior might come and bring their cell phone, right? So it's not necessarily a computer based service they need. They might have their cell phone and say, I need help, I'm not sure. So then they'll go in the room with the staff person and kind of go on that too. So there'll be that, and there'll be the van obviously that has all the computer stations. So there'll be really whatever questions technology world you have. Even if you need something printed, they would tell me a lot of times there are seniors who come and need applications printed and things of that nature because they don't have, and just need to talk to someone about different resources, so that's available there. And then since we are scheduling this during Medicare open enrollment time, they said, hey, I think we can get Barry and some other staff people to help out with Medicare open enrollment, because a lot of this is filling out things online. So I said, that's great. It's like two really important needs that we have, technology and Medicare open enrollment.
Hmm.
So that'll be available too. I think it's really
How many people
such
are
a
going
great
to be
program. When I heard
staffing?
about this van, I was determined to schedule.
I'm
Um,
sorry. How many people will be staffing roughly? Do you know?
I don't know. It really depends on Family and Children's, whoever they have that day.
Okay, so
That
this is
it's
all
not through.
supported by Family and Children's.
Yeah, it's their van. It's their
Right,
van. So we just, work with them on getting the space and, obviously promoting it. But it's like, it's just like the St. Francis van. It's really whatever,
right.
how they work. So,
I'm going to try to go
I
there
hope
just out of curiosity, to be honest about it. I like to see
yeah, absolutely.
what it looks like. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the van is beautiful. I've seen pictures of it, so it's really going to be a wonderful thing. So once again, Tuesday, November 14th, 10 a.m. to 3 p.m., Clinton G. Martin Park. Um, and then in addition, in the Medicare world, we also have the Medicare Part D programs that are being offered throughout North Hempstead. I believe there's still some slots available in most of them. But call 311, they might be filled up because it's filling up very fast. So just always call 311 and we can get you it connected. But this is all about Medicare Part D in particular, which is the prescription drug coverage that we learned in our first hour segment. Um, and this is scheduling your individual in-person or telephone appointment with a pharmacist to discuss which Medicare Part D plan is best for you. So there's Tuesday, October 24th. That's at the Great Neck Social Center from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Thursday, November 9th is over at the Port Washington Adult Activity Center from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And then there's the telephone appointments that you obviously can just do from your house. And that's Monday, October 30th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. We do this every year in partnership with St. John's University College of Pharmacy. So they're absolutely wonderful. You have to register for this because there's individual appointments that will be made. You have to call 311-516-869-6311 to schedule your appointment for that. So we're so fortunate to have such wonderful partners with, St. Francis, with St. John's and Family and Children's to provide these ongoing kind of programs for us. So really great. And in that note, Beck, I believe you and I, in our last week's show that we were hosting together, we manifested that our advisory committee meeting, because we were doing a pre-recording, was going to be a smashing success, and it was. So we did a fabulous job manifesting that. And it just made me think, because I'm talking about our partners, and this
Yes.
whole advisory meeting was about all of our partners. I mean, it was so great to really have us all, especially since COVID, in one room, sharing services. And, as much as the seniors and our staff people, got something from it, the partners themselves really enjoy to make those connections and reconnect with different organizations. So a
And
big shout out
Christina,
to all of our partners.
kudos to you for pulling it off, because it was a panel scenario. We had, I think, 14 or 15 of our partners, some, contracted with, others that, do programming. We network, we there are connectors in other parts for the town. And the interesting thing was a lot of them didn't know that the other agencies do certain things. So they're
Right.
now partnering, with each other because of, the partnership they have with Project Independence. And it was really a great program, Christina. It was a lot of work. And I know that it was, greatly appreciated, not just by our partners, but by the residents that were there. I always can tell when a meeting is really successful when you have, the residents sitting, taking notes the whole time, staying the whole time.
I know.
And at the end, we asked if anybody had any questions, and no one raised their hand. And this is a group that has never happened with this group before. In all of my years of being running these Project Independence advisories and these kinds of things, there's always a question, not one question. And the one thing we did ask all of our partners to do is they had about 5 minutes each, and then at the end to also provide their contact information. People were writing it down. So it was a really great, memorable program. I know, Otto, you weren't there.
My
your
son-in-law
son-in-law
was
was there, of
there.
course,
Yes,
to
Bill was
represent.
there.
He gave it a 10.
Oh,
You
good.
know,
Well, that's what I like to hear. And I want everyone to know so Beck had mentioned the contact information. So what I do have, and if you are not on our advisory distribution list, please call through on one. I'll be happy to send it out to you. But it's a list of all the organizations that were there, who was the speaker, and what's the contact information that they gave out. Because there was everything there was AAA, Alzheimer's Association, EAC Network, Family and Children's Association, Long Island Alzheimer's and Dementia Center, National Aging in Place Council Long Island chapter, the Northport VA Medical Center, Northwell Health at Home, NYU Langone Health, Project Help, Rebuilding Together, Sid Jacobs and JCC, TRI Business and Career Center, and United Way. And of course, we have a whole bunch of other partners
you
that
skipped the
unfortunately couldn't
Mental
make it that
Health
day. But
Association of Nassau County.
what'd you say?
Mental Health Association of Nassau County.
Yes, they couldn't. Unfortunately, they couldn't come. But they
Oh,
were on our
okay. I'm
original
sorry.
list.
They
Yeah.
were on the list that I saw.
Yes, they
Yeah.
were on our original list. They couldn't come
Yeah.
that day. So,
Okay.
but yeah, it was just such an amazing group of people, such good information. They brought so much material as well for the table. So we're hopefully going to, continue to do this kind of every year, because I think it is a good refresher for us all. And, what I loved is the overall message, and it wasn't planned, but it was really right up my alley, was this "it takes a village" kind of concept. And that's what each of the partners kept saying, which was so nice. We were going down the line and they all recognized each other, and they were like, it takes a village to really help people out. And that might be the overall theme. We might have to have t-shirts, next meeting, Beck. But
What
it
I
was
liked
great. So
about it too was that, like, we have the residents that come to our programs, the advisory board, whether it's the book club or a fitness class, or using any of our, talking to our social workers and nurses, we tell them how we have all these great partnerships, and sometimes some residents are connected to a partner, but it's to have all those partners there explaining what they do and how we connect to each other, painted the picture, really what Project Independence is all about. So for the resident who really maybe just uses a little bit of it, has a much better understanding of what we're all about, where we have all these partners. If you're a resident in North Hempstead, you have access to everyone, all of these partners. So it just really showed everybody, what Project Independence is all about and how we help people age in place. So I think it was
absolutely.
just like 100. It was 110%,
No, it's
Christina.
just great.
Good
And I
job.
just we're very fortunate. And I would say, we're lucky because of this show, we have access to a lot of these people. So a lot of the speakers that I got, were people that were involved with our radio program, so it's really building this kind of little community, which is
Village
just awesome.
Network.
Yeah, it is. And I absolutely I love it, because everyone kept saying it takes a village, and we said it actually takes a town, because we
Right.
wanted to be on with the town of North Hempstead. But
Takes the
it was great.
town.
And I want anyone to know that if you are interested in joining our advisory committee meetings, we meet once a month. It's both virtual and in person at Clinton G. Martin Park. You just need to call 311-516-869-6311. And even if you miss a meeting, for example, Otto couldn't attend, and how dare he miss such a fabulous meeting.
I
But
think he's got a story for us, though.
send the material. So if you miss something and you say, I get phone calls all the time saying, can you please give me because I put together an agenda packet that has flyers of upcoming programs, and then the material that comes in through whoever the speaker is. So just call 311. I'd love to have you added to the list. And if you don't have an email address, I'll send you a hard copy too. So it's really something I encourage everyone to sign up for. But I think that's a good segue back to find out what happened to Otto.
What
really left
happened
us
to
in
Otto?
suspense, Otto.
I got a couple of actual little incidents that I can tell you about, all right? But one of them was I wound up, because I was on a blood thinner, I was supposed to, I couldn't make the meeting or the advisory because I was going to this very special golf thing, all right?
Yeah,
So
some
anyhow,
Sleepy
long
Hollow
story
up there.
short, the morning I'm supposed to go, I shave with an electric razor and I get a very, very slight nick on my ear. Well, because I'm on a blood thinner, this thing starts to bleed. All right. And unbeknownst to me, I was not a master at handling that. I know you're supposed to put pressure on. So I
Mhm.
take paper towels and I put pressure on. And I went on for 4 or 5 hours. Finally, got
Hours?
it. Yeah, then it stopped. So then I decided I'm going to clean it a little. Okay, that was a mistake. Then it started all over again.
Oy.
I ended up in St. Francis uh, in order to get it to stop. It just wouldn't stop, you know. And I learned some very hard lessons, which I think, frankly, I think doctors or anybody who prescribes blood thinners to people ought to eh, promote. All right. I
Mhm.
wound up in St. Francis, and they put this, what is it called? Quick clot. Uh, they work with quick clot. Uh, and it's something that they use actually in combat and emergency
Mhm.
situations and whatever. I'm talking about a thing you couldn't even see the opening, but it just wouldn't stop. All right. So they put this quick clot on and then they wrapped it around my head. And I looked like I just got through a car wreck. And
No.
but they put that on so when I slept, it didn't bang into it. All right.
Yeah.
The next morning, it was spotless, clean, clear, no, absolutely no problem. My major points about this thing is a couple of things I learned. One of the worst things you could do is what I did: use paper towels to try to stop it because it
Mhm.
absorbs. Towels are no good either. All right. And there are things that you can get which called quick clot, which are gauze that have a
Mhm.
clotting thing in it. But nobody ever told me that that type of thing is around, you know? So if I had that, I would have put pressure on that very tiny little point and, gone there. Now, part two of this whole thing is I wanted to first go to urgent care, and urgent care couldn't do it. They said it's an active bleeder. So they said you have to go to emergency room. So I go to St. Francis, one of our partners, and
You know what, Otto? This is a cliffhanger, but we
yeah.
have to take a quick break and then we'll be right back. You're listening to Project Independence in You Community Talk Radio on 88.1 FM and WCWP.org. We'll be right back with Otto's story.
So I get this call from my grandma, and she's like,
"What's a podcast and how much does it cost?"
So I tell her, podcasts are like radio shows, but you can download them on any device and listen to them anywhere at any time, and they're free. And then she says,
"I see, but where can you find good ones?"
And I'm like, go to wcwp.org/podcast and check out the lineup of original shows, or download any podcast app on your phone or tablet and search for LIU Studios. And she's all like,
"Oh, that sounds easy."
and then she asked me what an app is.
LIU Studios podcasts, available on any podcast app. You know, those little button things on your phone screen. Just ask your grandkids.
And welcome back to Project Independence in You, Community Talk Radio on 88.1 FM and WCWP.org. I'm Rebecca Miller, along with Christina Liu, Otto Los, and Dan Cox. We're in the Talk of the Town segment, and we had to go take a quick break, but Otto was just telling us a story about an experience he had because of blood thinners. So
Well,
please
I mean, one
continue.
of the perils of blood thinners that everybody knows is that you bleed. That's what
Mhm.
happens. It makes your blood very thin, like water, and it doesn't clot. Uh, so fine and dandy. But my point being that this was a very tiny little thing in my ear. You couldn't even see. It wasn't like I put a gash in there. It was like a
Mhm.
little nick, and it just went on and on and on. And I was felt like, at this stage, I was really stupid in terms of how I handled it, to be blunt about it. So I think education on
No, I think you handled it like I know my own stuff. Like, right, if I get a bloody nose, I'm like grabbing paper towel. So I understand like your immediate instinct is, oh my God, and you're not expecting it to be this crazy river of,
yeah.
blood.
Yeah, but I'm one little tiny tail. I mean, there
Yeah.
are people who, when they get a blood problem, a bleeding problem, they're getting a big blood problem and they're on a blood thinner. Fortunately for me, I was told by the doctor a week before that I can now be off the blood thinner, but I wasn't off yet. So, uh, my whole point is I think you can get certain things in your home that might make
Mm-hmm.
it a little easier, like this quick clot kind of thing. If you look online, there's a lot of different. I had a powder which was messy, and that didn't work, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
So the gauze with the quick clot
Mm-hmm.
as part of it was a good option. And then people have told me since then that there are a lot of Band-Aids that have this quick clot, but pressure is very important. And I did do the pressure. I'd be there like 15, 20 minutes, holding it with one hand and then pull it away and it's still there, So anyhow, that was
No, but I think
minor.
Otto, I'm glad you thank you because Otto always shares, his personal kind of experience and stories. And I think it helps people, Otto, because your experience taught people that, maybe that should be included in like the first aid kit that people have in their homes. Because there's certainly a huge percentage of people that I'm sure are listening that are on blood thinners. And it's definitely important.
That's a
Well, I
great
mean, I
suggestion.
would think that the doctor or somebody should sort of say, look, you might
Yeah,
have a problem, and here's some suggestions, all right? Here's a
right.
suggestion tip for you to use if you have a problem. Um, you
They
know,
certainly ask you at doctor appointments and dental appointments. I know they ask me if I'm on blood thinners or if I'm
Right.
taking a baby aspirin. So they do ask. So it is,
Mhm.
yeah, but
you
that's
know,
post, that's after. I'm talking about when somebody says, okay, you're now going to be on a blood thinner, and here
Right.
is a little checklist
right,
in
right,
case,
right.
Yeah,
So
it's great.
yeah,
yeah.
my point being that it is something that, every doctor and dentist and whatever places are concerned with. So there should be some counseling by the doctor, at least the prescriber, on what to do. Because, I mean, let's face it, you could nick yourself, opening up a bag or a paper cut.
Course.
So you
I mean,
should
I'm constantly
really,
getting paper cuts.
Right.
right. So it
They
really is
hurt.
something that you should have a little kit to be prepared of. Yeah, that's a really good point.
I've got one other short story, has nothing to do with blood thinners, all right?
Okay, there you go.
My
Give it to us.
wife's car, I see the front license plate is gone. It was stolen, basically. Somebody stole the front license plate. So in order to handle that, you have to go to the police station and get a police report, and then you have to go to motor vehicles and so on. Here's my point about that whole thing. I went to motor vehicles on Monday. I get there, first the new location that I didn't know, but that was okay. But when you get there, there's somebody at the door and they ask you, do you have a reservation? I said, I don't have a reservation. I don't remember going to motor vehicles and having to worry about having a reservation. So then they point me to a chart with a QR, the
QR code.
QR code
QR code,
on
yeah.
the wall. And okay, you go over there and well, you couldn't get an appointment for that day. But 2 points of that, all right. First of all, if you don't have the ability on a smartphone to know what to do with the QR code, that's a problem by itself.
Yeah.
And the second part of it is you have to have an appointment to go to the
Hmm.
Motor Vehicles Bureau.
To that particular one or all of
No,
them now?
all of them, New York State. All right. And
I
and
think that
also
was
what I
something that
did,
got instated during COVID and like
yeah,
just kind of stuck because I remember like that happening. I haven't like thankfully had to actually go to motor vehicles. Anything I've had to do has just been like kind of an online renewal situation. But I do believe, that is something because I've seen that, and I think it was because, they were trying not to have too many people just kind of waiting around in there,
well,
and
the other
whatnot. But
one
Otto,
was
that's a great point.
AAA also does a lot of DMV work now. So I wound up making my appointment with AAA because I'm a member of AAA. And it was
Oh.
great, very nicely handled. And, but again, you need a reservation. Uh,
Hmm.
and like you, I mean, most of the time I don't have to go there. You can do everything, uh,
Hmm.
you know, to take care of whatever you have to take care of, unless somebody steals your license plate, then you have to go to get a police
Yeah.
report and the whole bit that
Yeah.
goes on with it. Yeah.
Right.
Wow.
So
Well,
anyhow,
I think you're helping someone who now people know, because I think a lot of people probably are used to, going to motivate. Okay, I'm just going to go to the DMV and not realizing this. So there you go. You're just
I
educating the
talked to
public.
my golf buddies and none of them knew you had to make a reservation.
Yeah.
So we could
Yeah.
segue to my injury because
Yeah,
I
but
want to share a lesson that I learned with everybody who is listening. So I work out a lot, and over the last year, even more, doing great, feeling great, challenging myself, going faster, higher inclines, and feeling good. Though after each kind of heavier workout, I noticed that my back of my foot hurt, but it would go away. So I continued on, and again, stronger, faster, higher, fuller, and then it started hurting a little bit longer after each workout, but it would go away. So I would rationalize, oh, okay, it just needs to rest. And then finally got to the point this summer, thankfully, after I did my whole European trip where I walked almost 5 to 10 miles a day, and again, it bothered me, where it stopped getting better. And it hurt all the time. So I had to go to an urgent care place and did an x-ray. The doctor was pretty sure that I have some kinds of tears in my Achilles. So I had to stop pretty much everything, started physical therapy, and then had to have a MRI, which shows that I have micro tears in my Achilles. So I got a second opinion. I don't need surgery, but it's a very, very long process, slow and long process to heal. A lot of healing, different tears, or different levels, I guess, of tears. So I'm wearing this boot. I have to wear it for 6 weeks nonstop, except when I sleep. And it's because I didn't listen to my body, and I'm a yoga instructor. I can't teach my yoga class now. I have someone covering for a few weeks. Because I did what I preach to everybody.
I was just gonna say,
is listen to your body. And in yoga, I always listen to my body. Like I even say when I'm teaching a class, warrior 2, reach the right arm. Oh, you know what? My shoulder hurts a little bit. I'm going to lower my arm because I'm listening to my body. That's, Rebecca yoga. Rebecca, when the endorphins are flying, is, poop, 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 just go, go. And going forward, I will absolutely never do anything like that again, because had I stopped initially and rested it and listened to my body, maybe have gone to the doctor at that point, they would have said, rest for a week, let it heal. Maybe you have one little tear, but instead I pushed through it, and I just here I am now in this boot. Now it's like, compared to a lot of other things and injuries and things that people are going through, it's not terrible, and I'm grateful.
Well, you know what, Beck, it could have been worse. You're lucky that it wasn't,
right.
It definitely could be worse.
Yeah, but there's
it
a
just
lesson
takes
to be
one
learned.
injury.
And that's why I'm talking about it.
Right, right.
Listen, it's the message your body's giving you. No matter what it is, if you walk 3 miles a day, if you do chair exercises, if something doesn't feel right, it may be just that moment. It was a little strain or a pull, or it could be, it's not something your body wants you to do at that particular time. Stop. Just don't do it, and try again the next day, and make sure maybe you're in a, you need a different position, or, just don't overdo it. Listen to the body, and going forward, I'm going to do that. And it means now that I have to really contain how I work. I mean, I'm getting older. Joints aren't, bouncing back like it used to. So listen to your body, and then you can, and find another way to get, healthy and stay fit. So that's
you guys
my
both have a
story.
lot of golden nuggets. I mean, you both shared a bunch of golden nuggets, and I feel like I'm sitting here like, what are my golden nuggets from the week? And all I could think of was I had quite the terrible week. My dog, we had to bring to the hospital
Easy.
on Thursday and
Yeah.
Friday, which was emotionally a traumatizing experience. He ate something, and we think it was outside that, there was not an object, but it could have been some toxic thing. So it was very stressful. But what I did learn, and my golden nugget from the trauma experience of of being there is how important it is, if to all my people out there who are thinking about a dog or have a dog or a cat, to get pet insurance, because these amount of money, and thank God my husband and I got pet insurance, we had it, so I mean, you have to pay the amount, but then hopefully, we'll get reimbursed for a lot of it. But I have a lot of friends who don't, and they're, oh, I don't need that, just an extra expense every month, it's not going to be necessary. It's like, you can't get more careful than Jay and I, with our, I mean, we treat this dog like the prince that, and he certainly knows, and he's probably listening to me in the living room right now. But accidents happen, things happen, they are fast, so if you do have it, I encourage people. That's one thing I'm glad, and there's so many different kinds out there and different extents you can pay for, but that is my golden nugget.
Well, that's easy,
Yeah.
right? Is your pet's
Yes.
name. And
Yes.
I know my family, all the girls have dogs, and they become a part of the family.
Yeah.
And I don't think any of them have pet insurance. And I
Yeah.
do know that several of them have gone through multiple thousands
It is
for,
that I literally was going to pass out.
veterinarians
I
are
forgot.
cost more for people who have pets than they spend on themselves for medical
Mhm.
care.
Exactly. Well, that's what I said to Jay. I said, I've been at more doctors for my dog than I have for myself. And it really is, because a lot of my friends are like, oh no, I'm not going to get it. And then, we're paranoid people, which thankfully we are. And, we had it because when the veterinarian was going over everything and the numbers, my head was just spinning. And he said, "Do you guys have pet insurance?" And I said, "Yes." I said, "Well, that's great." He's like, "I'm really glad you guys, have that." And I was like, I could kind of
that the
breathe.
pet insurance may not be enough to fill an hour, all right? But there could be, if there are somebody out there who's up to speed on pet insurance, it wouldn't be a bad thing to have like a 15-minute segment or
Yeah, listen,
something.
there's a lot of people
You
with
know,
animals, and I mean, this is a new world for
Absolutely.
me, right? I was never someone who had an animal. Growing up, my mom had, two cats and stuff, but that was, they weren't actually mine. So this is like a whole new world for me, to navigate. And I'm just really thankful. So, and listen, I have to say, I won't say the one that I have, um, but the process was really easy. It was easy for my, no pun intended. And I was on my phone and I just uploaded the documentation, and it was like this AI assistant chat person who was asking me for all this information about it. It's all uploaded via an app, and they kind of give you a status of where it is. It was really like moving. So we'll see. I haven't, I mean, I know it probably will take time to get some kind of reimbursement, but it was actually not as stressful of a process as I thought. And of course, I gave them like more than enough information. I was like, "What do you need? I'll give you
you know,
anything I
you
have
know what
to
would
get
be
this."
interesting is to keep track of your little tale here in terms of
Mhm.
how the process went and
Absolutely.
how much did you actually get back as far
Hmm.
as the actual coverage goes.
Right.
It would be good
Yeah.
for
So
people to know that yeah,
yeah,
you
and it
saved,
was just traumatized, because, and I think it is important, yeah, to talk about these pets, because when I was in the waiting room, of course, I'm sitting there for hours upon hours, and there's all these people, and there's a lot of seniors in the waiting room, and the devastation, of course, that was only making me more upset, because my social worker heart was breaking, seeing these, devastated, because these pets, whether it was a cat or a dog, were really like the world of these seniors that were like there by themselves, and it was heartbreaking, the whole experience. I was like, I was really emotionally traumatized from the whole thing. But I think it is important to kind of
I got
these
one
little
other
chats.
area, all right?
Mhm.
Um, Allergies. Um,
Mm,
I have learned over the last number of years, I have allergies, all right?
mhm.
And right now seems to be a season to be jolly as far as allergies are concerned.
Very true. Yes.
What you ought to maybe dig into sometime, getting an allergist on the
Sure. It's a
show,
great idea.
about like mine is what's it called, rhinitis allergic or something. Uh,
Hmm.
there's a lot of different kinds of allergies out there, like the peanut stuff and everything else that goes along
Yeah.
with it. I think we could cover a pretty good little story about, like how do you handle this? Like, I think the real word is hay fever. All right. What do you do about hay fever? Everybody has a different solution.
Hmm.
This kind of nose spray, this kind of allergy medication, or
Hmm.
whatever, whatever. Why does somebody who's really a pro with this stuff say,
Yeah,
uh,
it's a
it'd
great
be,
call. Because listen, I'm a seasonal allergy kind of gal myself, and I have, what works for me. But what works for me is doesn't necessarily work for my husband. And then there's also health. My mom too. I use a nose spray, and my mom was using it, but then it was making her more anxious. It was actually raising her heart rate. So there are so many other factors. You can't just be, oh, it's over the counter, I'm going to grab this nose spray. If you have other health stuff going on, you really got to be careful.
well, I
So
mean,
You know
an
what?
example. Yeah, sorry,
I
go
was
ahead.
going to say, Otto, to your point, it also what maybe we can bring it in as too is it allergies?
right.
Is it a cold? Do
Well,
I have
that's
Yeah.
the
COVID, RSV? How do you know
exactly.
with all these, things that are going around
Well, guys,
ultimately
we're
what you're
going to
treating?
need to hold that thought. We're going
Well,
to be approaching a break shortly, so Beck, take us out.
All
well,
right. Well,
and a thought with that is a checklist. I'm going to tell you about that. I did.
Okay.
all
Okay.
right. When we come back to Project Independence in You, Otto will give us a checklist that I'm sure will be very interesting. We'll be back with Project Independence in You in just a moment.
WCWP is your home for great music and great conversation. You'll find all that and more on WCWP.org. Listen live on the web, check out the lineup, subscribe to podcasts, and stay up to date on the latest station events. Get in touch with us and let us know if you like what you're hearing. And find out how you can support or get involved at the only community public radio station serving Nassau's North Shore. Plus, sign up to get a free bumper sticker. It's all online at WCWP.org.
And welcome back to Project Independence in You, Community Talk Radio on 88.1 FM and WCWP.org. We're in our final Talk of the Town segment. I can't believe it. And right before the break, Otto, we were talking a little bit about getting people on who in the field of allergies, but and then we were all throwing in our 2 cents. And Otto, I know you have a checklist that you wanted to
Well,
suggest.
basically what happened was my wife, concerned, says, you should go to an urgent care because you're coughing this, that, and whatever.
Mhm.
And I said, no, okay. So like 3 o'clock in the morning, I wake up and I say, I'm going to find out what some kind of checklist that says, what do I have? Do I have a cold? Do I have the flu? Do I have whatever, like you're
Mhm.
talking? All right.
Right.
And I go on and I get these little thoughts about it. And A, do you have a fever? No. B, do you have mucus that's not clear? No, it's clear. Do you have chest congestion? No. Uh, do you have tickling in your throat? Yes. So you go through all this and it says, okay, basically, this sort of sounds like you don't have a cold and you don't have this, you have allergies, all right? Uh, and that was my conclusion. And I had been diagnosed with this allergic rhinitis, which is,
Mhm.
where they come up with this, I don't know, but they
Rhinitis,
did.
yeah.
Yeah. So where do you go from there? Okay, now you talked about friends of yours told you, like, I'll use a brand name because I don't know any other brand name. Use Flonase, all right? So okay, so my doctor, who I has been on our show a couple of years back, uh, I talked to her about it, and she says, "Well, I'm going to give you a prescription, and
Mhm.
then you don't have to pay for Flonase.
Mhm.
You get it, you know,
And it's very expensive over the counter.
Yes, it
It's a
is. All
very,
right.
yeah.
So that's why that this goes back like 2 years ago. So you get something
Mhm.
that's comparable to
Mhm.
that, but it's a prescription item. And if you have a drug plan, most of them cover it. All right.
Mhm.
So that's part one. But then the other part of it is there's like 800, when you go to a drugstore to the allergy section, there's like
Mhm.
40 different kinds of allergies
Yep.
prevention stuff. Right.
Mhm.
You know, and all kinds of different nose sprays. Uh, so it gets so complicated,
It
like a
does.
lot of things. Why? Because a lot of it's marketing. Uh,
Mhm.
you know, they tell you how this great thing is going to take care of your allergies, going to get rid of it. Coughing. Everybody has a different approach to how to handle the cough. You
Mhm.
know, so
No, it's so, it's so funny. Say, listen, I'm someone who's been taking allergy pills and nose spray for years. And it really, I found like what worked for me, right? Knock on wood, I don't really get sick ever. And
well,
for a while, like,
offline, I'd like you to
it-
tell me what allergy pill
Yeah, but you
you
know what?
use.
I have to say, like, that's what works for me. Like Jay also suffer. He takes a different regimen, and I'm so paranoid though because before I ever took allergy pills when I was younger, I would get like sinus infections and like, have more of that stuff. And then like I really found it to be kind of preventative to go down that road, for me, and especially during like COVID. I have like this my own phone, which I would love to have an allergist on because it's like I'm scared to like stop the allergy medicine. Like maybe there's certain seasons that like you don't need it as much. But it's like I have like this thing like, oh my God, if I stop it, then it's gonna realize,
So you
so
take it all year round?
yeah, I take it year round. I mean, I obviously sometimes I, forget or whatever, but for the most
Oh.
part, it's and then sometimes I'll just do the nose spray, because it's like when you find a groove, because I feel like we're in this world of, seasonal allergies used to be like, okay, it's like the change of seasons, you get it. Now I feel it's all the time. I mean, you keep hearing everyone, oh my God, my allergies, and it's like the dead of winter. So it's I feel like it's a great topic, Otto, and I'm
Yeah, but
glad you
right
brought up.
now they said it's time for allergies again, season
Well,
change.
that's because leaves are falling. Seasons
Right.
during season changes is really when, things start pollinating or dying
And
and
you know what it is too? I just think the weather has been so all over the place that like your typical schedules are all off. So it's just this weird. And then you have, as Beck mentioned, there's so many other things with this RSV and then COVID and then it's like so
I'm
you
going
really
for my
don't know like what you're dealing with. Yeah.
RSV shot this afternoon.
so I went to a couple of weeks ago, I don't know, maybe a little bit more. I had a cold. I was coughing, no fever. I had crossover symptoms. But,
Hmm.
of course, I don't want to get anyone else sick, and I want to know if I'm contagious, if I could go to work. I feel
Right.
fine in every other way, but I'm coughing. I got a drip. I thought it was in my chest. I don't know if it was bronchitis. So I go to the doctor, and they did the COVID test, they did the RSV, the PR, the all the other tests that they send to the lab.
Hmm.
And then I go back and to the doctor a few days later because I'm not better, and all the tests come back negative. I have nothing. So the doctor says, well, you probably just have, a head cold, a run-of-the-mill head cold. He's like, or it could be one of the other things that's just not detecting. I'm like, you mean you
I
did
know.
so how could that be? I said, you
I
did this
know.
intense test, you tested me for everything,
Yeah.
and everything came back negative.
I
So
know.
it's like, what do I do? He's like,
I know.
just it's treat because I think we're going to treat it as a head cold because
Yeah.
basically that's the only thing that really if I am negative, he said, look, it could be coming up negative maybe because you're vaccinated and you've had COVID a couple of times and it's a very, very light case or, even RSV. I'm like, you know what? Let me just go home and, take a nap for
Yeah. I
three
think
days.
it's just the rule of thumb, right? Like just go home and just rest it out.
It's like so we don't even care if it's positive. Well, if it's positive, maybe it's not. I don't know. So I was thinking, Otto, as you two are talking, I'm thinking there's got to be an app out there, right? Like a symptoms app. You put your symptoms in, and it does just as much as everybody else when you're
No, but
guessing,
I think
and
you
it
have a
tells
good
you
point.
what to
Like
take.
the problem is there is so much crossover now,
Right.
and like, it's a running joke with my friends, and because it's like, the minute someone's sick, you're like, oh my God, it's COVID, it's not. And then it's like, so like whatever, like the old fashioned head cold. I mean, we all just had head colds, like back in the day. And now it's like it seems like that's like, oh, like, well, I guess maybe it's a head cold, like, so but I think like that's where this always gets so muddy now because there are all these other things that have these crossover kind of symptoms that you're not sure. But I think that'd be a great topic. I mean, clearly
I mean,
we're
you
talking
can't
about it.
even
So I think
you can't even pick cough medicine off the shelf,
I
and
know.
you look and you say chest, this, that, 14 different
Right.
other items
Right.
are on the list. What am I going to take? You know?
Well, is it going to
Uh,
keep
It's
me
so
up? Is
overwhelming.
it going to
yeah,
make me
right. Is it going to keep
sleepy?
Yeah.
Is it
me
going to,
up?
you know?
If you have a
Is it gonna
blood
bother you?
pressure
Is it gonna bother my
problem, is
stomach?
it
And my
bad?
mom,
Is it,
speaking of that, she has to
know?
get she was sick a couple of months ago and had a cough, and I was she had asked me to pick up something, but I had to pay attention to make sure it said like it was safe for someone with high blood pressure. So it's like you really need to like kind of have these things all, all together. So I think it's a great segment. I will track someone down to talk about this kind of world of things, but great stuff. And next week, I just want to remind people, because I know we're in our last segment, we have Michelle Bontempi on, who is from National Grid, who's going to talk about National Grid's home energy affordable team heat programs and services. I cannot believe we're like actually in a time where we need to start thinking about colder weather. I feel like it was literally just summertime. But as we know, when the cold weather comes, the heating bills are astronomical. I know I dread every, year the oil bills that come. So it's a great program. So she will be on to talk about that. You guys also touched upon the Pioneer. Will be going into homes. Hopefully, it will start landing. I got a thing just while we're on the show from the printer saying it looks like Friday will start the dropping into homes. So it should be next week sometime. I would assume people will get it. It's really jam packed. If you are not getting it, it looks like this. I mean, it's prettier. I just printed this out. It'll be, bound. It'll be nicer. But there's really great articles from Northwell submitted, and it was, is it dementia, Alzheimer's, or just normal aging, and how to tell the difference. It was a really great little kind of letter to the editor, kind of concerned daughter article. Of course, Otto has his wonderful Help Keep Happy Memories Alive, which is kind of his story, a little
I
blurb
love
on
that
how
article.
to preserve. It was great. We have Barry Klitzberg submitted stuff on Medicare open enrollment. We have this great thing, which is one of my favorites, which is 10 ways to love your brain. Start now. It's never too late or too early to incorporate healthy habits.
Do you have
So
that
it's great.
page with that article, by the way? Just put it up there.
This one?
Yeah, the other one with my thing.
Oh, you?
Otto's display
I'm just
Otto's
curious.
article.
Oh, excuse me. He just wants to see his.
Oh, the picture's
his,
in there.
face.
Okay. All right.
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
it's
Of
in
course,
there.
Otto. Don't worry.
That's
You
a
never need to
great
worry.
picture.
I will always
That's so
include a
great.
photo. We have these really great tips that I love. It's My Plate, and it's called the Holiday Makeover. And it's all about the holiday season coming and what to choose, over certain things to make healthier choices during the holiday without not partaking. So that's really great. We have a Cornell Cooperative Extension sent in an article about the Mind Diet, which is really to preserve brain health and different ways that studies that have been done to do that. And it's really interesting. And I love it because it gives you a blurb about what that is, the benefits, different foods to focus on, and how to shop on a budget for the Mind Diet, which I thought is really great. Then, of course, we have our general services that PI has, our social workers, our nurses, our transportation, our exercise classes, our veterans caseworker, a bunch of events that are coming up as well. So it's jam-packed with great information. Please, if you are not receiving it, call 311 so I can make sure your name is on the list, because the list, in exciting news, guys, it was just updated. So the Pioneer will be getting sent out to almost 60,000 households. I think it's like almost 58 and change. So that's really incredible. So it goes to, I
Wow.
want everyone to realize too, it goes to one per household for economic reasons. Obviously, I know there's multiple people that might live in a house that are over 60. So, but it's just going to one, because I always get phone calls when the Pioneer comes saying, my husband received one, but like I didn't get one. I want to make sure I'm on the list. Don't worry, it's just getting sent to your household.
So, I mean, that's just something to think about, though, Kristina. So there are 58,000 plus households with at least one person, just at least one person. Some have more than one person that are 60 and older. So 50, and I mean, figure at least half of that has to have a spouse or other family members that are 60 and over. So we're talking, I mean, this is really, what we're seeing. Like, we've talked a lot about this.
Well,
Baby
just
boomers
like a
getting older.
glimpse. And this was, because we had updated the list in spring of 2023, we sent out our first, issue of 2023, and we had a new list. Since then, so now we're in fall, the list itself, it was like almost, I think it's probably almost about 13,000 extra people that would be included on the new list. And we were like, but then it made sense, because you think per day how many people are turning 60, and because at first we were
10,000
like,
people a day turning 65. and we go to 60, and they, we don't have, so it's got to be more than 10,000
It
people.
was just one of those, and I love, because they always send me this kind of breakdown of the new list. So the additional new people, and this isn't even including, the previous list, but I was like, scanning, because I love the numbers of things. But just in the new people that were added to this list, what I thought was so interesting, because we always talk about this on the show, how you never really heard of people in their hundreds, right? It was like, if it was like, what, this, they're actually in just this new list. So there's probably more. 105 years old in the town of North Hempstead, 52 people.
Wow.
52 people or 105 or older.
Yeah, and that's
Wow.
just the new list being submitted, which I thought was so absolutely incredible. And what was really
Wow.
interesting too? The age 97 seems to be a hot number, in the plus 90 thing, because that was 108 people, which I was just blown away. I could look at this forever, because there's so many interesting data, and obviously it's roughly, and I really wish I could get like a full glimpse of everything, but I have to like kind of piecemeal things together. But I just really thought, and 104 people, there's 64 people, and
Amazing.
70
Now
people 100 years old.
You get 60,000 of the pioneers printed?
Yes.
Wow. I didn't realize it was that big.
Well, the number, I mean, we luckily have been working, with this company, too, because it's hard, right? It costs money to get a new list. So obviously we would love to get a new list, constantly, but you aren't able to. So we were able to get this new one this year, and it really jumped the amount so much. We were sending it out to about 40,000, I'd say, previous years, but it's just really exciting, because it is a great way to just spread the word. And I hope people really look through it, because there's a lot of great information for people, of all ages,
Now,
if you're a caretaker, even anything.
do you like occasionally give you names of people to put on the list? Are they put on this new list too?
Yeah, so that's not including this, because that's called a seed list, because they're
Seed
not
list.
actually necessarily the people that the reports get, but so they're added. So we don't even have the count on those people, but yes, we do add that. And then once again, I will give my promo for the email newsletter. If you have an email address, please sign up for that, because that comes out once a month, and that has a lot of great information too about not only PI stuff, but the Town of North Hempstead upcoming program. So that you just call 311. And our list for that, we're over 5,000 now names on the email list, which is really exciting, because I remember when it was just like 20.
Yeah, wow.
But it's really exciting stuff. So all great things. Of course, I know we are approaching rapidly. Call 311-516-869-6311. We have all of our social groups, a lot of health chats that we mentioned along the way. If you missed anything we discussed, please call 311. And
You said
that's it.
311 made me think of something else. All right. I got an email or a text, I don't remember which, from Smart 911. And I responded to it, and basically it was to update your data. And I thought about it, and people really, really ought to do that, because the way it works is if you call from your cell phone, they know, because your number is there, that they instantly get all the information about you. You don't have to say anything. You need a PIN, but they recognize your phone number, and as a result, they have all this information, about you and your situation, which is really
another golden nugget from Otto. There you go. Otto, you just dropped so much wisdom on today's show. This is what happens when he misses a show. Just so much knowledge.
It stores up,
Well, you know what? I think that's it for the show this week. It was another great show. Open enrollment. Please get in touch with Barry if you have any questions. Always call 311-516-869-6311 with any questions, anything we discussed on the show, or anything regarding Project Independence. We'll be back next week. Have a wonderful weekend. You're listening to Project Independence and You Community Talk Radio on 88.1 FM and WCWP.org. Take care, all.